Hi everyone and welcome back to Horizon Open Racing. While we are waiting for the season change, I decided to practice a little bit online, and for this practice I chose A class in road racing, and I had a few really nice races. Some of them I want to show you today. So the first race is all about just having fun with other people and enjoying the race regardless of the result. It's just a good display of how you don't really have to win to have some fun. So I started it really nicely in this Ford GT40. It is the car that handles very well and has really good balance between handling and speed. It's an all-wheel drive setup, so it's very stable on the road, very stable through the corners. I still did a few mistakes overall, and actually that's what caused some fun. So you can see I'm losing my rear in a few corners in a row. Part of the reason for that is my batteries went flat on the controller, so I lost the vibration, and it actually means a lot. The vibration on the controller is a very important signaling method for when you're about to lock up on the brakes, as well as when you need to shift. So I felt a little bit bad about driving, or unsure when to do stuff, and which resulted in mistakes like this. You see I'm sliding in the corners, and one thing to note is anytime you do that, especially on the road, if you're not in rally, you are losing time. You're much slower than you should be. So even though the car is very capable of beating anyone on this field, mistakes compensated for that in a negative way, and as you can see I just let the opponent go through. Now I actually let him go intentionally, and you could have seen that he went with coming through message for me, which is absolutely fair because I made a mistake. I was slow through the corner, so instead of blocking the trajectory, blocking the path for them and defending at all cost, I decided, hey, I'll let him go and try to catch him up again, which is exactly what I'm busy doing. You can see he's locking up on one side in all corners and drifting, but that's probably more due to setup of his car. But as a result, I'm catching up in all corners. So let's see me trying to get him on the last lap, and you can see I got to grips with my lack of vibration. Now again, I touched him ever so slightly, but that actually caused him to go into the wall, so I backed off, and instead of flying through, I decided to choose for another moment, and hey, boom. So as you can see, I'm missing the checkpoint here, and that's one of the cases where I'm absolutely not angry about it. It's been a fun fight. Both of us made enough mistakes. Both of us were very respectable to each other and let one another go when we see that the other one is faster. So, and it's very obvious that him pushing me out wide was not intentional, and as a result I had no grudge about it. I felt absolutely fine, and I think it's a good example of when you can fight, you can even do things like that, when push somebody out of the checkpoint, and it's still not a problem. And obviously just after the race was finished, he messaged me on Xbox and said sorry, and we had a nice conversation, so it's all good. I think I could have won it if we continued. You can see the message popping up right here. That's the sorry message, and we had a little chat. Now once this was over, I still won the championship, but let's look at another championship, again in the same car. I have to say that compared to this Carline R34 that I used in street racing, speed wise this Ford GT40 is pretty much on par, or at least very close. But overall the car is more stable and handles a little bit better through the corners. So I managed to beat my Skyline times on Rivals on any track I tried. So there was an obvious choice over Sky for me, just because, you know, if the car performs better, even if it doesn't sound as good as the GTR, it's fine. So you can see me right off the start flying out of the corner, but we are all ghosted now, so there's no carnage in the first corner, and from here on the better handling, especially in the corners, and better ability to position the car for the corner and therefore get on the power earlier than opponents, gives me a huge advantage on this track. So you can see this sprint is very, very twisty. It's a Volcano sprint, or Vulcan sprint, I think that's the name of the track, and it's all corners. There's barely, well, there's a few fast straights and a lot of fast corners, but you have to turn all the time. And you can see in the very beginning of the race I'm already at a very comfortable gap over everybody else, which is obviously a good position to be in, because the drawback of twisty roads like this, when you are in the tight pack, overtaking becomes a more risky adventure, if I can say. Incidents like I've shown in the previous race, where a friendly attack attempt ended one of us, or me in particular, going wide out of the checkpoint. The risk of these incidents on twisty roads is much higher. But for now I'm very comfortable ahead, and this will continue through this track. So I was very satisfied with the performance of this Ford GT. I think I did much better in it than in the Skyline I tried before. So that's another indication that I can not only be faster on Rivals with it, but also in the actual race. You can see the gap now is really huge. I'm again using the tunes by Gritted Dust. There seems to be a pattern now in my choices, because even though there's a whole lot of various tunes for this car, it seems like whoever Gritted Dust is, they know a thing or two about making the car not only fast but very comfortable to drive, and this is very important for me. There's a lot of builds that are fast on track, but require a level of precision which I can't really attain, which probably means I'll never set a world record, but I can win a race or two in these cars. So that's the first place on this race. It wasn't very close racing, as you can see, but I still enjoyed it. I guess various scenarios are fun in various circumstances. It was fun to fight in the middle of the pack, and it's also fun to fly ahead and create a big gap. So let's see the next one. The next race takes us to a Stadio circuit, and that's the next race in the same championship, so I'm obviously in the same car. That's the same Ford GT40. But the thing I want to talk during this race about is starting positions. You can see I'm starting 6th, and we tend to, or I at least, tend to forget a lot about how important the starting position is. I kind of almost ignore where I'm starting when I judge how well I did. But look how long it takes for me to drive from here to where the first guy starts. It's full 4 seconds. 4 seconds, which means I need about 0.8 seconds per position that I am behind first, that I need to compensate during the race. So it's not enough to just be as fast as the other guy to contest for the win. You actually need to be much faster if you are further behind the grid. So if you find yourself in a busy lobby at the end of the pack, don't be too hard on yourself if you can't win. It's actually a lot of work. If you are on 10th place, you might need to go for almost 10 seconds of compensation over the course of 3 laps or a single sprint to just catch up with the first place. Equally, if you see somebody going from the last position to first, have some extra respect for them, because that required some extra work. It's not enough to be just as fast as they are, you need to be much faster if you are fighting from all the way back. Another aspect of this is obviously if you are at the end of the pack, you need to go through other opponents in order to catch up with the first, and that also costs you time. Now this time I just passed my friend from the previous race nice and clean without actually losing any time, and nobody ended up outside of checkpoint. But more often than not, you actually lose time, a couple of seconds worth, to pass even a reasonably easy opponent. And then there's things like this, there's a little bit of a touch here, and you'll see now a more, this skyline here, boom, sends me into the wall. But then he got so ashamed of what he done that he suicided into the other wall. Now, with all this fighting going on, 2 laps are pretty much over, and I'm still quite a bit behind the first place. I'll never catch up on this race, but that's okay. I was pretty satisfied with my performance. I did a few mistakes, but not too many, and it was a good racing. The thing I really hope to see in the next Forza Motorsport game, which should be coming this summer if nothing gets delayed again, though we didn't hear any news about it for a while now, but I think it's still on track. I'm just speculating here, but I hope they have a proper qualification or another way to influence your starting position, because if I remember correctly, in Motorsport 7 the starting grid in the lobby was also random, and if it's kind of okay for Horizon with its more casual approach, but I would think on a proper motorsport game I would want some sort of qualifying before the race. So this is another case of not winning but still enjoying the race. Second place finish, all nice and fine, from 6th to 2nd, enough to be satisfied. And as you can see, am I faster? No, I'm just on par in terms of the lap time with in terms of the best lap with the first guy. So it's well-deserved win as well. I can't just say that I had to go through the whole field and that's the only reason he won. No, he was fast and nice enough. Okay, the last race of the same championship is another sprint, RESERVORIO sprint, and this is a different case where I'm starting second. There's a whole long straight in the beginning, super fast. If you remember this track, the initial section is very quick, and then further down it gets way twistier. Now you can see my launch is not excellent, but that's due to the starts of the car. But you will see now that as we are going more into top speed range, I'm actually catching up with everybody quite nicely. But it's the first corner. See, this long straight is so long that you actually unghost before you reach the first turn. So there's quite often carnage here. You can see a lot of people ghosted, and even I ghosted, even though I didn't hit anyone. It predicted the collision, so it ghosted me, which actually worked very well towards me, because I managed to pass everyone, and this will actually stay through the course of this race. Getting early advantage is very important, and obviously with the second place start I didn't have to play any catch up, and there it is. The remaining of this race I'll be touching the walls every now and then, but not making any errors that are serious enough to actually distract. So this championship is mine, and I have to say I'm very satisfied with the performance of this Ford GT40. But at this point I already decided that I'll go for another champ, and I'm gonna choose a different car. You'll see what it is once we finish this race. This hit on the wall was very risky now, because I'm actually surprised I didn't get the penalty for it. But even though I have a nice gap to the guys behind, a single slowdown for the wall collision would probably annihilate it. At the very least they would be right at my tail, but I'm actually sure, or pretty sure, that they would be ahead of me. So that's another thing to remember during online racing. Even if you're comfortably ahead, you still need to drive nice and clean. You really don't want to end up anywhere in the wall, because that would cost you dearly. So this is the end of this race and this championship. You can see well ahead, and I should have won the championship as well despite losing one of the races. Let's just wait. Yeah, nicely and comfortably in the first place, and let's move on to a different championship and a different car. Now we are moving on to Horizon Mexico circuit. It's the second race in the championship. I skipped the first one, partially because I didn't do too well on it, and partially because nothing really interesting happened there. The reason I didn't do well there is purely all my mistakes, and yeah, no interesting battles as a result, no funny stuff there, skipped it all together. This one, however, is a good display of performance of a completely different car to the Ford GT I just ran. This is a Lotus Elise 99, again with a tune by Gritted Dust 8, but this car is very different to the Ford GT40. However, interestingly enough, on Rivals I am showing mostly very close results between these two cars, even though they are achieved in a very different way. So this is rear wheel drive as opposed to all wheel drive on Ford GT. You've seen a little bit of collision here, but again, this is all friendly. Obviously this Toyota my friend drives is a little bit harder to control, but again, no grudges about that little crash. It's all good and nice. I'll make a mistake, I think, here. Yeah, a little bit. See, the rear wheel drive requires a lot more throttle control and better braking discipline than all-wheel drives. It's not as forgiving to mistakes, but you still can get very nice results, and you will see that just shortly when I managed to compensate here. So he made a bit of a mistake and I just went through. Now, a lot of the rear-wheel drive cars, especially in higher classes, not so much in A class, but the higher up you go, the more difficult they are to drive, but the faster they are as well. This one drives very nicely, as long as you're not too fast to smash down the throttle, you know, go pedal to the metal, you will have no problem controlling it. It's not too slidey, even though some people say it is, but no, this particular tune and car combination works really well. And as you can see, once I got over the initial set of mistakes, I can control the line pretty well and quite easily build the gap to the rest of the field. That's how it will go till the end of the race, and I have to say I'm very happy with the fact that I now have two cars that I'm very satisfied with the performance. Both of them allow me to be on average almost 2 seconds faster than I managed to be in the Skyline I use in street racing on various tracks that I tried in Rivals, both on street racing and on road racing. So I guess I won't be coming back to that Sky. I tried to experiment with various tunes for it, but I couldn't make it at least for now, much faster than before. So Ford GT and these 99 Elise seem to be very good choices. Maybe as I experiment more, I will find something significantly better, but I don't know. I might be hitting a limit of my own ability rather than car's ability, because I've seen rivals' times much better than mine in this same car, and even with the same tune. So there's still a lot for me to learn. As you can see, the Horizon Mexico circuit is over. Pretty easy win overall. Really good gap and much faster than everybody else on the track. And we'll move on to the last race of this championship and of this video, which is coming up just now. And the last race of this championship is DESCANSAR Dorado Sprint. And here I am starting again much closer to the end of the pack, which means need to do a lot more racing and fighting to get ahead. You'll see just now how it will go. The initial part of this track is rather fast, but there's one big corner which provides a good overtaking opportunity. You'll see just now about half of the field gets it way too wide for their own good, which allows me to go quite a bit ahead. Here it is right here, so you can see I'm taking it even a little bit on the grass, but that's fine as long as you stick tight to the inner corner. You should be good, and this allows me to go up into 5th position. There's another KTM here. There's two guys from the same club in KTMs. I'm not quite sure what they expected to happen, because it didn't perform too well. Maybe they were just testing the setups, but that's me up in 4th, and now I need to somehow get through this guy, and that proved to be way more of a challenge than I expected. I really didn't want to push him out of the corner somewhere, and the problem here is the whole section almost till the end is a set of very fast corners where you just barely brake, and you can see it was what, 2 or 3 contacts already with me hitting him from behind, which I feel a little bit bad about, but finally I managed to overtake him in a reasonably clean way. I don't think I interfered with his race too much, but now watch this skyline here. So he's actually taking really bad line through all these corners, and now at the time that I was already fully braking and downshifted, he only smashed the brakes, and that resulted in collision. I kind of felt bad about it until he messaged me saying all the bad words, and I re-watched this footage 3 or 4 times, and I don't think he was ever actually able to make that corner at all. I think he should be upset at himself more than at me. Nonetheless, that's something I still need to practice, what to do when you're brake checked like this in a tight corner. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed this video. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.